talk to me. We heard a little bit of this during the debate, that this is an example of how to get reform without all sorts of protests, crying, wailing, gnashing of teeth. What was it about what happened in Illinois that allowed that to happen, whereas you've seen other states try other things that haven't ended so well?
I think there are a number of things going on there. First of all, I don't think you can possibly understate the importance of leadership, and we have unbelievably good leadership in an awful lot of key places, starting with state agencies, some of our key unions, legislative, both rank and file and leadership level, and you bring that together with the fact that as a state, having gone through the race to the top application process, we had worked very collaboratively on some hard issues a year ago, had a blueprint for where we had agreed the state needed to go, and these issues represented the next logical steps for those. So you've already worked on the substance, you've already come together and developed some working relationships on tough issues, and you've got people in the right place who are willing to take those steps and are really forward-looking and thinking about kids first and foremost.
When this gets written, and it gets written by people out of the state, once they get past the, tougher to strike, easier to fire a kid, or easier to fire a teacher, this is going to have impacts on Chicago's school day, school year. It's going to boil down for a lot of people across the country to Democrats in Illinois passed a massive sweeping bill that doesn't please unions. How difficult was that aspect? And what happened? I mean, how is that you see that happening in Illinois?
I'm sorry, is your question that we've passed a bill that doesn't please unions?
The question is,
I wouldn't agree with that conclusion. I mean, this bill has been unbelievably collaboratively arrived at, and you know that the bill passed unanimously out of the Senate with support from every one of the major unions in the state, the IEA, the IFT, and the Chicago Teachers Union. And the discussion in the House committee yesterday, you had the CTU opposed, the IFT was opposed, the IEA was neutral, but I think that if you listen to the testimony, you heard that they were all saying the same thing, that they remain committed to the bill. They remain committed to the key provisions of the bill. There were some concerns about some drafting issues on the final issue that got reduced to writing. They wanted to see those cleared up and clarified. That's a very small piece of a very significant and very complex piece of legislation, and nobody has backed away from support for the vast majority of the bill. So you're saying there's still some ongoing concern about a small piece. I think it would be a mistake to characterize that as being unhappy with this bill.
What is it that you think when other states look to Illinois? Is there going to now be an Illinois model? And is the process going to be different than the substance of the education reform? I think that the sort of reforms are many states would like to see something similar. Other states already have it. Mm-hmm. What is more significant in your mind, that we got to this point or what the bill actually does?
Honestly, both. I don't think you can pull them apart, and I'll tell you why. You can't pull them apart because at the end of the day, anything that you write down in paper has to be implemented. And when you're implementing something at the district and the school level, that becomes a very intimate process. Teachers and administrators are working very closely together. If they're at odds in what it is they're trying to do, you're not going to get the implementation that works best for kids. So the fact that we got here in a way where everybody agrees with the fundamental thrust of this and is bought into doing it well means this is in fact going to have the impact at the classroom level we want it to have. So it's both what we're doing and equally important in my opinion is how we got there. And I will tell you, I am getting calls and have been throughout this process from my colleagues. I run Advance Illinois. We're a bipartisan state education advocacy group, and I have colleagues in other states around the country who have wanted to see both the language that we're talking about, but have been equally interested in how did everybody come to the table? What sort of challenges has that presented getting through that? What's been the role of legislators in that process? What's been the role of the state agency? And what should they be looking for to try and replicate that in their own states? We're also getting calls on a regular basis. The United States Department of Education has been following this closely, and my understanding is the president was interested in how the vote went today. So this is getting appropriately attention both for the substance and the process.
What do you tell the people from the other state when they ask you those questions?
You know, there's no cookie cutter answer. There just isn't. I mean, we have I tell them what I've been telling you. I tell them what factors I think mattered here. They've got to understand in their states what they've got to work with. Where do they have leaders on management side, on union side, at their state agencies and legislatively. Who do they have to work with? Who knows, who buys the concept that we should be making decisions fundamentally based on who's performing best for our kids? And start there and see how broad that gets. And I also tell them that the earlier that you work and the more genuine your interest is in that collaborative process, the better it's going to go. But everybody's got to feel that sincerely, and we are very fortunate to have a pretty strong ethic of that in Illinois.
Are the states that applied for, and even some of the states that won money, Race to the Top, are they better prepared than other states who either didn't apply or weren't finalists?
I think you can't make a common conclusion about that. I will tell you that I know many of my colleagues in those states, and the stories are very different. But I think that one of the upsides for anybody who participated in the Race to the Top process was it did give you an excuse, with a lot of money dangling there, right? I mean, everyone will sit down and talk about $500 million, which is what we were eligible for at one point. It gives you an awful lot of an excuse to sit down and bring everybody around a table and say, look, what do we really want to do? And because the scope of that was so broad, it was really looking for a comprehensive state plan, it brought people together in an unusual way around a big picture strategy for the state. And I think there are very few states I've talked to that don't feel the better for having gone through that process, even if they didn't get the money, which is where I'd put Illinois. I think we're huge winners from that process, even though we didn't end up getting the money. We made some changes a year ago. We're making more now. You've got a collaborative plan. That's all good, and the best part is we've done all these things. This is huge, but all those puzzle pieces that let us get this far are still in place, so that we're able to tackle any challenges that come from what we've already done, and that hopefully mean we're well positioned to look at the next set when we're ready to.